By the way, don't you have anyone special? Me? At the reunion, a classmate who had been bragging about her engagement suddenly turned the conversation to me. I had to think for a moment about how to respond to such an unexpected question. But whether she took that pause as a denial, Julie suddenly burst into loud laughter and said, "Ahaha. Sorry, there's no way, right? Someone as plain as you getting married? That's just not happening." "No, it's not like that," I tried to interject. "You don't need to say anything more. I'm sure it hurts to listen to someone as fortunate as me talk about their life." And that's how she belittled me. People around started whispering and murmuring as they glanced at Julie. In the midst of that, one of my friends leaned in and said to her, "Hey, Julie. Ashley is. My name is Ashley Thompson. Since I was just a child, my mother has been involved in a business, and I've lived a life without financial worries. However, I do not have a father. In a world where it's expected to have both parents, this fact made me stick out, and I often felt isolated because of it. Thanks to this, during my childhood and adolescence, I was often the butt of jokes due to my family's influence. Julie, someone I've had a sour relationship with since elementary and middle school, has always been picking on me. And that hasn't changed even now, as a high school student." Julie's father is the CEO of a clothing brand. It was a brand popular among young women, and she often wore the company's new releases to work. Because of that, every time she wore something different, all her friends and other girls gathered around her. But on the other hand, I didn't particularly like the design of her clothes. While everyone was paying attention to Julie, I was spending my time without showing any interest, all by myself. It seemed to hurt her pride, and one day, Julie started to mess with me. "What's with that drab outfit? And your chunky figure? Seriously, it's just not happening. It's what I like to wear, so leave me alone, will you? Whoa, who do you think you are? Getting cocky in that lame getup." Back in elementary school, when casual clothes were the norm, she would sometimes come at me ready for a fight or talk down to me just to mock. Naturally, once we were in middle and high school where uniforms were mandatory, she stopped picking on me about clothes. But instead, she started to make fun of my figure. "Oh, look, Ashley. Started wearing glasses? They don't suit you. Did you come over here just to say that? Maybe. But, you know. Compared to elementary school, you've gotten quite big, haven't you? Growing taller, putting on weight, and let's not forget the acne. Well, it's puberty, what can I do? I wonder about that. Maybe it's because you were raised in a single-parent home, not exactly the ideal setting?" In this manner, she kept teasing me throughout middle school. Gradually, it became tiresome to engage with her, and I started to tune her out, which seemed to wound her ego even more, and her behavior escalated day by day. I thought that once we moved on to high school, I'd be able to get away from her. However, despite her status as the daughter of a CEO, she ended up attending the same public high school as me. The reality that what I thought would end was going to continue kept me from feeling hopeful. My eyesight, which had been deteriorating since middle school, had gotten quite bad by the time I entered high school. Because of that, I had to wear glasses with much thicker lenses than others. This made my eyes look smaller when I wore them, and the substantial glasses made me stand out even more, making me the perfect target for Julie. Ever since elementary school, because she was the CEO's daughter, she'd been the center of attention, and as a high schooler, she quickly established her own clique and pulled most of our peers into her social circle with that momentum. Every time she or her entourage harassed me, the people around us distanced themselves from me. That's why I didn't have friends for a while. But what significantly changed my situation was club activities. Having been taller than most since middle school, I was immediately recruited into the volleyball team upon entering high school. They complimented me on my height. Having not received such kind words from others for a long time, I was overjoyed and decided to join the club. After that, I spent every day in rigorous practice, alongside my peers of the same age, honing our skills and stamina, even as I let out pitiful cries. During those days, kids who had never spoken to me before started to strike up conversations. "Ashley, I always thought you were a much tougher person," one said. Why? "Well, you know, you always dress so seriously compared to others." And unlike Julie, you wear your uniform by the book, so it felt hard to just chat with you casually. Is that so?
Yeah.
But as we trained together and shared meals, I realized that you're actually friendly and easy to talk to. I hope we can keep being friends from here on out. Of course. The feeling is mutual. Centered around the friends I made in the volleyball club, my circle gradually expanded. Having often been alone before, Julie used to pick on me a lot, but recently, since I'm usually with someone, my everyday life has become somewhat more peaceful. Additionally, the extra weight on my body that Julie had always mocked since middle school slowly got trimmed down thanks to the tough training, giving her less reason to tease me. After graduating from high school, Julie and I drifted apart. Thinking that we would end up at the same college, I deliberately chose a university out of state, and I managed to get in. As a college student, I joined a club and enjoyed my time with people at my age, all the while dedicating myself to my studies and part-time job. College life without her flew by, and before I knew it, I had joined the ranks of busy working adults. For a while, as an adult, I couldn't forget about Julie. But even unpleasant memories fade over time. Then one day, a phone call from my mom brought back those intense feelings from the past. Ashley? It's been a while, it's your mom. How have you been lately?
Yeah.
Work's been going well, and I'm building some good relationships. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, by the way, there's a letter here for you about a high school reunion. Really? I guess enough time has passed since graduation. It wouldn't be strange to have one by now. As I spoke with my mom on the phone, I reminisced about the friends and events from my high school days. Naturally, Julie crossed my mind as well. Got it. I'll come by to pick up the letter soon, Mom. Oh, really? Then I'll make sure to have lots of your favorite chicken thigh stew waiting for you. Thanks, Mom. But don't overdo it, okay? It wasn't long before I went back to my parents' house. As I entered the house, the familiar aroma of chicken thigh stew and my mom's smiling face greeted me. Welcome home, Ashley. Hi, Mom. Here you go, this is that letter I mentioned over the phone. And, it's a bit early for dinner, but would you like a little nibble of the stew? Oh, thanks. But I'll look forward to the stew later. I entered the room I used to call my own and sat down at the study desk that was still there. I opened the envelope of the letter. Inside was an invitation with the date and participation fee for the reunion. Also enclosed was a small piece of paper with an email address for confirming attendance. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled about the idea of seeing Julie, who used to give me a hard time, but the thought of reuniting with friends from the most fulfilling time of my life got me excited. So, I immediately emailed my RSVP to the address. I wonder how everyone's doing. But more than that, I'm kinda curious about what kind of person Julie has become now. I found myself murmuring these thoughts while staring at the reunion invitation, not really reading it, just reminiscing. The day of the reunion. I was thrilled about meeting up with old friends. Everyone had changed so much, they had become more mature, some had learned makeup skills, turning into beauties beyond recognition. When all the attendees were gathered, the first thing we did was catch up on each other's lives, sharing laughs and fond memories. But during that, a cheer suddenly erupted from the middle of the venue. Something happened? Who knows? We went over to see what was going on. There she was, Julie, the last person I wanted to see again. She was showing off a lavish dress and flaunting a ring on her finger to everyone, bragging about her fiancé. This ring is from Cartier, cost $30,000. He bought it for me as an engagement ring. People, men and women alike, were asking her all sorts of questions. How's married life? How much do you guys save? What's the food like? It was like watching commoners and nobility. Shallow questions being thrown around and proudly answered. To be honest, it seemed pretty comical to me. Just the other day, we went on a date on his cruiser. I still remember the view we had perfectly. Where do you live now? I live in all sorts of places. In mansions with big yards, in villas surrounded by nature. I live wherever I want. And soon, I'll be living on the top floor of a high-rise. You can see the fireworks from the summer festival, the sea, and the view is just incredible. Julie seemed to be quite intoxicated with her current lavish lifestyle. The people around her who were listening to her stories were cheering at the dreamlike tales. I was completely turned off and walked away. Look at this. This is my fiancé. Then she showed everyone the photo on her cell phone, which perhaps explained why I heard exclamations like, "He's so handsome," and "What a hunk." I'm jealous. After a while, I was enjoying the meal prepared for the class reunion with my high school friends. While looking around at everyone, we were in the midst of conversations like, "We've all grown up, haven't we?" when I accidentally made eye contact with Julie, who had everyone's attention. She smirked and walked over to where I was. "It's been a while, hasn't it? I recognized you right away. You haven't changed a bit. You seem a bit thinner, though. Are you having a hard time? Are you okay?" Her immediate jab at me was just like old times. Her comment seemed to chill the air for a moment, but my friends, trying to be considerate, said, "Julie, we heard you got married. Congratulations." Then Julie, proudly showing off her ring, started bragging again. "Yes, that's right. He's a business owner, wealthy, and he treats me like a princess. He's my dream guy." She was so caught up in her own world, not giving a second thought to me, and kept going on and on about herself. The others started to frown with inconvenience at her endless chatter. When the reactions around her seemed to fade, Julie, as if suddenly remembering, looked at me and brought me into the conversation. "By the way, do you have someone special?" Me? Caught off guard, I hesitated. Perhaps taking my pause as a denial, Julie burst into loud laughter. "Ahaha. Sorry, there's no way, right? A plain Jane like you couldn't possibly get married. No, it's not like that, but there's no need to say more. Just listening to a fortunate person like me must be painful for you," she said, demeaning me further. One of my friends tried to interject. "Hey, Julie, you know, Ashley is." But Julie wasn't showing any signs of listening. When you think about it, still wearing those thick glasses and frumpy clothes. Taller than most guys, too. Nobody would want to marry someone like that, Julie continued, laughing crudely. That was too much for me, and I felt my anger rise. So, because she lacked the class to match her looks, I stood up to counter her argument. But at that moment, someone put their arm around my shoulder from behind. Startled, I jumped, but the scent of the cologne told me who it was. That calmed the anger I had just felt, and a warm sense of relief washed over me. "Talking about my wife like that, huh?" the man behind me said. "Jason." I looked up at his face as if gazing at the ceiling. The man who towered over me, even though I was said to be taller than most guys, was none other than Jason Thompson, a man famed for being the most handsome in our high school. After graduating from college and entering the workforce, he became the president of a clothing company, and now he frequently appears in the media. He was famous back in high school and even more so as an adult, with many people knowing who he is. What did you say just now?" My friend asked him to repeat himself. Jason replied calmly. I was just saying how much you were talking about my wife." At his words, everyone around us gasped in unison. "What?" with big voices, bombarding us with questions like, "No way, when did you guys get married?" Or, for that matter, "When did you start dating?" I had heard you were married, but to think it was Jason. The most handsome guy in our grade married someone from the same year? That's a shocker. Amidst the buzz, Jason lightly tapped my shoulder. Turning to look at him, he had a big grin and said contentedly, "The prank was a total success, huh?" Then I turned to the crowd and shared with them. "Me and Ashley, we've been together since high school. And of course, I was the one who made the move." "No way, what a surprise. And the marriage, we just registered last week."
Yeah.
"We're newlyweds."
Aww.
"Come on. You could have let us in on it." Well, Ashley gets embarrassed, you know. There were times when I told a few people just to see her turn red. What was the trigger? What made you fall for each other? Well, we were both on the volleyball team. Guess you could say we fell in love during training. Oh my, how youthful. So, tell us. What did you say when you proposed? That's a secret between Ashley and me. It's our little treasure.
Aw.
That's how we were swarmed with questions from everyone around. With every question about our romance and milestones, I felt my face grow redder and redder until I was looking down at the ground. Then, at that moment, it's a lie. That's impossible. Julie, who had completely lost the attention of the crowd to Jason, was beet red and shouting. The lively atmosphere was gone in an instant, replaced by silence. And everyone's gaze shifted to Julie. Jason marrying Ashley? With someone as gloomy and unattractive as her? Enough with the lies, please. They're not a match at all. Had I been told such things while we were dating, I would have undoubtedly been hurt. But now, it didn't affect me at all. Jason listened to Julie's hysterical rant with nods and murmurs of agreement. Then he said in a breezy tone, "Well,
Yeah.
I guess you're right. The only good things about me are my looks, height, and bank account. I never imagined that Ashley could fall for someone like me. Back when only the shallowest girls, who were just looking at the surface, came my way, I was really fed up." But the look in Jason's eyes at that moment was ice cold. Disgust, anger, sadness, pity. His eyes were cold, sensing all that negativity. After seeing that look in his eyes, Julie began to choke on her words, and eventually, she couldn't say anything at all. As if to deliver the coup de grace, he said, "And to think that someone would call my wife ugly. Are you blind or something?" snatching my glasses away in a swift motion. "Ah." I couldn't help but exclaim, initially chasing after my glasses with my eyes, but I quickly realized that everyone was staring at me. Having worn glasses in public for so long, that moment without them was incredibly nerve-wracking for me. "Beautiful." Someone murmured. I had been wondering if that might be the case. Could it possibly be the model Susie? No way. Wait, now that you mention it, she does look just like her. What, seriously? The actual person. A buzz started among the crowd. I had never imagined that this fact would come out in such a place, and out of embarrassment, I covered my face and looked down again. Our in-house model Susie, well, her background has always been kept under wraps. Folks have been asking if she's not just some CGI or if her pictures are just some fancy artwork. But I tell you, with her naturally beautiful face shape and the kind of top-tier makeup we put on her, I guess it's not too far-fetched for people to wonder. Jason explained this to the people around him. Indeed, I had seen such speculations on social media. Ever since I started working as the exclusive model for Jason's company, due to my tall stature and beautiful body lines, I had been careful about my body and posture. Thanks to that, I had received high acclaim from the public. No way. You mean to tell me that Jason, the CEO of a famous brand, and Susie, every woman's dream, are getting married? This is a huge scoop. Jason's revelation stirred up the crowd again. And he, with a smug grin spreading across his face, said, "Yep. Our marriage is going to be announced in the media tomorrow, so I thought I'd spill the beans at the reunion today." Almost everyone at the reunion was astonished by the revelation and gathered around Jason to hear more. But there was one who stood apart. Standing beside me, Jason was receiving congratulations from everyone when suddenly, I noticed Julie in my field of vision. At that moment, she was glaring at me with a fierce expression. I felt an intense chill from her unusual demeanor. The day after the reunion, our marriage was announced to the media, and for a while, it remained a hot topic on the morning shows. My husband and I would check out those programs when we watched TV together, just to see what the public had to say. Even during our time together as a couple, I couldn't forget the expression Julie had shown me. Is something wrong? Could it be about Julie? Yeah. You know, at the reunion, when everyone was gathering around you. That's when I saw Julie glaring at me with such a harsh look, and I just can't seem to shake it. After saying this, Jason gently stroked my head before putting his arm around my shoulder and pulling me close. Do you think I did something to deserve such resentment? The scenes played back in my mind. I could vividly see Julie, showing off her belongings and laughing proudly. Maybe she was envious of you, Ashley. Envious of me? But she seemed much wealthier and happier, didn't she? People have things that others might not even realize they want. You probably had something that Julie envied without knowing it. Is that so? It's hard to say. But you know, I've learned something since becoming a CEO. It's that people need certain emotional nutrients in their lives. If they lack love, they seek it out. If their desire for recognition isn't met, they find ways to fulfill it. Harassment often comes from those who are vulnerable, trying to fill a gap within themselves, a complex in their heart. It's not excusable, though. Jason. Still, I won't forgive anyone who tries to harm my wife. He said with a smile. Jason and I became friends through our high school club activities, just like he said at the reunion. At first, it was because we shared the same last name, Thompson, that during club activities, when the coach yelled, "Thompson, come here," both of us would run over to him. It was when the coach said, "I don't need you, the guy," and I couldn't help but laugh, that he also flashed a smile my way. Eventually, both of us ended up being roped into the coach's errands. During those tasks and odd jobs, we had little conversations here and there. Soon after, Jason confessed his feelings to me, and we started dating. By the time we entered college, my feelings for him had grown significantly. Because of that, both in high school and after entering college, I felt anxious about his charm that attracted other girls, and I was jealous of them. Even so, Jason was always devoted to me. That made me see him as my one and only, leading us to marriage. A few days later, Jason and I, having been too busy with our respective jobs to go out, finally went for a meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. We didn't go anywhere too fancy but chose a restaurant that we both liked. On our way back, we passed by a certain bar. It was then that Jason suggested, "How about we stop by one more place?" I had a pretty good idea of how the night would unfold once we got home, so I nodded, my heart racing, and we entered the bar together. To my surprise, there was an unexpected person there. I blurted out, "Julie," without thinking. Looking closely, I saw another man at her table. Ashley. At first, she glared at me. But feeling Jason's gaze, she quickly looked away. I walked up to her and asked, "Is he your fiancé?" She nodded awkwardly. I thought to myself, I knew it. But to be honest, he was quite different from the image I had gathered from everyone's opinions at the reunion. He was in a wrinkled t-shirt and sweatpants, sporting a stubble. After a fleeting glance at us, he was right back to focusing on his cell phone. On the other hand, Julie was all done up with her hair set nicely and makeup meticulously applied. Her outfit was fashionable, chosen with a careful eye for color coordination, and honestly, there was a noticeable air of sophistication about her that didn't quite match the man present here. For starters, he doesn't look nearly as rich as she makes him out to be. Why on earth are you guys showing up in a place like this? She was practically yelling at us, her voice loud and angry. Her face was quite red, which made it seem like she had been drinking. A place like this. We come to bars all the time, just like everybody else. Then why? If your husband is a businessman, shouldn't you be dining in hotels or fancy restaurants? That's what you do when you live it up, right? That's not really how it works. She was speaking in a tone that was different from her usual one. Her voice quivered as if she was on the verge of tears, and at times she raised it strangely loud. To this, Jason said, "We only go to those fancy places for special occasions or business entertainment as a CEO. You should understand that, being a wealthy man's daughter yourself." Humph. I wouldn't know about that. She finished off the half-finished drink on the table, then bowed her head and stopped moving. Jason and I made eye contact, gave a single nod in unison, and then we each took one of her shoulders to help her outside for a moment. Of course, we excused ourselves to her fiancé first. "Sorry, Jason. I just need a moment alone with Julie," I said. "Sure." Jason quietly went back inside the bar. On the deserted night street, I found myself alone with Julie. "Hey, Julie. It's just the two of us here," I said. "Huh? What are you trying to say?" "You don't have to keep up the facade to put yourself through this pain," I told her. "What? I don't understand what you are talking about." "You say that, but..." I moved closer to her. Taking her hand, I guided it to the corner of my eye. "Sure, Julie, you've done a lot of terrible things to me." I was really angry. But how can I stay mad when I see you crying like this? Tears were streaming down her face without end. Torn between my emotions and my reason, I couldn't help but hug her. And I said once more, "It's just us here." And then she. Wah! A scream echoed through the quiet night street. Her anguished cry seemed to tell of the great suffering she had endured in her life. Moved by the outpouring of emotion from Julie, who was now on her knees crying, I found myself shedding tears as well. It's been tough, hasn't it? So tough for you. For a while, we just held each other. Eventually, Julie stopped crying and her emotions settled down. Despite all the awful things I've done to you, Ashley. It's okay, it's all okay. I did hate you back then, but now, I can't even think of feeling that way anymore. Really, I'm so sorry, so sorry. Hey, can you tell me? Why did you do those things? And why did you lie about them? Yes. I'll tell you everything. I want you to hear it all. Thinking it wasn't right to let her talk on the side of the road, I took her to a nearby park. Sitting on a bench there, Julie shared many things with me. My family was very wealthy. But my parents got along terribly, always fighting every day. I was scared of their shouting matches, so I'd always hide in my room or go outside. But one day, the fights seemed to stop. One day, as a turning point? Yes. That day my father brought home a woman he called his secretary. I didn't understand it at the time, but now it's clear. That was the beginning of an affair. After that, Dad hardly ever came home. The fighting lessened, but compared to before, the house felt colder. Even so, we never wanted for money. So I started spending money, trying to soothe my insecurities by doing various things. Perhaps, that outfit you used to wear in elementary school. Yes. I bought that myself. I convinced myself it was a gift from my parents since it was bought with their money anyway. Julie. When I wore that outfit, kids at school would gather around and talk to me. I was happy about that, so I always wore clothes from my father's company. But even then, Ashley, you were the only one who didn't show any interest in me. Seeing that scared me, like I was looking at my own parents. So, that's why. She mumbled her words there. I said, "Don't worry about it, just tell me," as I gently held her hand. You know, even though she doesn't get the attention like I do, I got jealous of you. Seeing you looking content on your own, even though you're from a single-parent home, you seemed happier than me. I was really envious of you for not having an abusive dad. That's why I did such awful things, to take out my frustrations. Now, I truly feel sorry about it. It's okay. You know, I kind of feel the same way. Huh? My dad, well, he had a bad drinking habit and would get violent when he was drunk. He'd spend all his paycheck on alcohol, and when the money ran out, he'd start raging. Eventually, he even came at me, demanding that I work though I was just a kid back then. So, my mom, sensing danger, took me and left the house. I heard she struggled a lot until they finally got divorced. We sat in silence for a while, not saying anything. So, what kind of person is the guy you are engaged to now? Honestly, he's pretty much like unemployed. He's always on his cell phone, saying he's checking Forex charts, but he's never actually made any money. On social media, he claims to be a day trader. Is that so? But why would someone like you fall for him? It's because he's kind. He would never hit me. He doesn't yell, nor does he gamble. Huh. But I think that's just normal behavior for anyone, isn't it? I don't know anymore. My dad and all the guys I've been with always take their bad moods out on me. But my current boyfriend doesn't do that, that's why I love him. What about money? Does it come from family support or something? When I asked, Julie shook her head. When I told my parents I wanted to continue my relationship with him, they opposed it. But he's the only one I can rely on now, so we had a huge argument. In the end, they disowned me. What? So, how are you managing with money? I'm earning it. Now, I'm working night shifts at bars and convenience stores. Is your fiancé not trying to work? He says his last boss was terrible and it left him with a trauma about working. I couldn't find the words to describe the severity of their situation. Then suddenly, I caught the scent of perfume. A fragrance that I've smelt over and over, that brings me comfort. I'm such an idiot, talking about this won't change anything, right? No, that's not necessarily true. Jason's voice came from behind me and Julie. When we quickly turned around, there were Jason and Julie's fiancé, whom we had seen at the pub. I asked them, "Did you guys happen to hear our conversation?"
Yeah.
"I've been listening since Julie started talking about her father." "Well, eavesdropping, huh? I guess I wasn't being very classy either. But, because I did that, I think I was able to create an opportunity for change." Jason looked at the man and nodded. The man stood in front of Julie, who was sitting on the bench. "Julie, I'm sorry. It seems I've been too dependent on you." Julie didn't say anything, just quietly looking down. "I had no idea you were going through so much pain," the man said. At those words, Jason spoke with a tone that seemed a bit angry. "Not realizing it. That just proves how little you cared about her. You just thought of her as a convenient girl or a cash cow, didn't you?" "No. That's not true. Then you'd understand that you need to change your behavior, wouldn't you? You never considered where the money you were using came from. The hardships she went through to earn it for you. You spent your days half-heartedly studying and not achieving anything. How can you say that's not true when faced with my words?" "That's..." The man shrank away. But at the same time, he clenched his fists tightly and said with genuine frustration, "You're right. I've lived with a naive mindset until now. I always said I wanted to do better, but in the end, To this, Jason asked, "So, what will you do?" Just then, Julie, who had been looking down, raised her face to look at him. Seeing the tired expression on her face, the man's own expression grew firm, and a look of determination appeared in his eyes. "I'll work. To no longer burden Julie, I'll find a job and study for my certification at the same time. No more half measures. For our life together, first, I'll find a job." "Humph. Is that so?" Jason, seeing the man's newfound resolve, handed him a business card. "I would have been mad if you kept playing the tragic hero. Seems like there's no need for that now. FX trading, for instance, only succeeds for those who seriously continue to study economics. If you're going to rely on that, you need to put in more effort than someone with a regular job. Either way, it's a thorny path. I won't say don't do it. But maybe there are things you should prioritize first? This business card is a ticket to the train heading to the future." "Just kidding. Jason. Shall we head back, Ashley? Before it gets too cold from the chill." "Yeah." I had trouble standing up from the bench after sitting for so long. Jason gently put his hand on my back to help me stand. Afterward, we left, disappearing into the darkness together. Sometime later, a call came to Jason from Julie's fiancé. Initially, Jason wasn't expecting much, but after referring him for a job, it turned out he was working earnestly. But well, whether it continues or not, that's a whole other issue. Though he sometimes says that, I know he's always concerned about him, going to listen to him talk, and occasionally heading out to grab a meal together. As for Julie's father's company, according to information that reached Jason, it wasn't going to last much longer. After Julie, an only daughter, left, her mother and her father's mistress ended up in a messy lawsuit. As a result, Julie's father had to pay a substantial amount in alimony for his years of infidelity. Honestly, if the divorce had been finalized sooner, I think Julie could have had a life with less hardship. I can't help but feel mixed emotions when I think about my life in comparison to hers. I believe both Julie and I don't have a very good impression of our fathers. At least I've never had a good impression of marriage, ever since I was young. So initially, even though I accepted Jason's confession, I kept dodging the topic of marriage. But still, with Jason expressing his love so directly, I was finally won over. From that moment, I felt immense joy and happiness in the affection he gave me. Then, one day, Jason said to me, "For the sake of the kids, it's best if the parents are close." He said that and gently placed his hand on my stomach. "Yes, honey. Recently, we found out that a little future has taken root between us." Jason and I both cried tears of joy together. I'm a bit worried whether I can be a father that our child won't be ashamed of. Oh my. If you say that, I have my own fears, you know. Then, let's work hard together to be good parents, shall we? Yes, indeed. No one is born a bad person. It's by adapting to the harsh environments that are thrust upon us that our hearts get twisted, leading us all to walk down a not-so-good path in life, I think. Long ago, and then, on that day, by seeing the mean side of Julie and her vulnerable side, I was able to come to hold such a view. Still, hurting someone else is never excusable, no matter what. However, as a person who knows pain, I've resolved to not forget the kindness that allows for stepping forward when it counts. Because I feel that by doing so, I can increase the things that I can forgive, even if just by one.